Hello, how are you? It's really nice to be with you. Something else to be thankful for, technology shortens distance. So I'm going to be sharing with you a few thoughts about teachers' roles, and one of my colleagues will advance the slides so you can follow through. When we think of teachers' roles, this is a topic that we are all pretty familiar with, and we might sometimes think that we know everything there is to know about it. But for some reason, many people talk about reinventing themselves today. And of course, that is a cliche, but apart from a cliche, there's something true about the need to reinvent ourselves. In a world that changes so much, where things seem to go so fast, it's healthy to stop, look at ourselves in the mirror, and think how we are adapting to those changes, to see how we discover the new ways of being. In this case, the new teacher that we have inside, and how that can enrich our experience and make our profession even much more fun. So, sometimes teaching is felt as lonely. Why? We teach many hours generally. There's little time to get together to plan or work in teams. Now, collaborative tools will make that so much easier in general. But if we get engaged in a hybrid teaching experience, it's virtually impossible to do it alone. We will need to work in teams, not only technicians, coordinators, academic directors, people who have taught in hybrid environments before, but also we need to assume different roles in those teams. We might not be the teacher who is face to face, we might be the teacher who is online. We might also do both. We may end up developing content or designing that how that content displays in a digital environment. Now, what is the great thing about roles? Um, we are familiar with our face to face experience. We know our practices, our best teaching practices, our classroom techniques, the tools we use, and how to use them. And we might feel very comfortable with that, but the great news is it can all be transferred, right? In a digital environment, we just need to find again a new set of practices, our best bag of tricks, and the techniques that work. I really like to think of this in terms of observing the environment and from outside in, thinking of ourselves and finding our new role. So, what happens when we look around? We focus on a specific area, we discover a process, we find a new objective and focus on it, and there we discover a role. That's why I thought of this acronym that helps me remember, which is a prof, which means a professional, and that is how we could come up with four roles: moderator, content developer, class manager, and facilitator. Let's see how this works specifically. The area of concern. In the first case, I'm focusing on curricular design. We generally use books that have been written by other people, software that has been designed for any context, and that's not always the best. Although it is not advisable to invent everything and create everything because we need to give it a professional look, we will need to engage in the process of adapting, designing, and developing the content. Why? Because we want to focus on the pedagogical design that is appropriate to our objective. And that's not always the case when we buy or use material just as it is. The point is, let us not get too enthusiastic about something we find that we use it just the way it comes without going through the question, is this content clearly connected to the unit objectives? How can I adapt it? Let's not just use something because it's cool and interesting. Let's not just use it because it has been published, because it might need a lot of reshaping and remodeling. Let's go to the second objective related to the area of environment. The teacher is the designer and the moderator of his environment in a face-to-face experience. He should be or she should be the designer and moderator in the online environment too. What am I concerned with when I'm in a class and I look at the environment? I want to choose a sitting arrangement. I care about the temperature of the room, the lighting, and the objects that I use. I want to make sure people are comfortable and find the way around. I want to use a clear whiteboard. Okay, in a digital environment, a lot of that has to do with how the environment is designed and also how it is moderated in terms of friendliness and netiquette. Friendliness is a word that has been used to refer to software as well. Software is friendly when it is easy to understand. I know what button to push. I can find my way around. What is netiquette? It's the etiquette of the web. Netiquette is concerned with being polite and having good manners. Do my students know how to do that online? We know how to teach that in class. We have certain rules of manners and attitude. Well, the same has to take place online. How should you refer to each other in a forum or in a chat room? Are they familiar with those notions? Let's move on to the following role. The teacher as facilitator. Now, here we can focus, we may think of an area of concern which is usually like in the background of teaching, and we have it in mind but not always make it explicit. That is the learning strategies and the learner's development of those strategies. A really important word in online environments and in hybrid environments is autonomy. Why? Because we will not always be there. In a face-to-face class, we are there. We see the students' faces. When the student is at home working in a digital environment, we don't. So we need to work to foster that autonomy and to empower the learning strategies while we are in a face-to-face class or while designing the activity. So, how will I care for that? Can students count on some technical support? What will they do if they have trouble in that area? Are we providing clear instructions for activities in the digital environment so that they know how to go about? Instructions are really, really important. It's not just reply to this question in a forum, but step 1, step 2, step 3 highlighting, okay? Read your partner's entries. Select an idea you agree with. Click on reply. Express why you agree with your partner. Use this and that expression, etc. But we need to be very specific about steps. Now, if the area of concern is class management, class management has to do with whatever takes place in class, with on-the-spot decision making, with a set of procedures we follow. So, what is the procedure to follow when the student is going from a face-to-face experience to a digital experience on his own? The most important process here is weaving. That is, connecting what happens online with what happens at home, with what happens in class. The objective is a smooth interdependence of environments in such a way that the student knows really well how this that I'm doing here connects to what I did the other day in class, or how this that I'm doing in class will connect to what I'll do tomorrow at home. So, in that sense, the kind of questions I may think of are we making clear references to the virtual environment while we are in the face-to-face class? And this includes having a computer in the class, opening the digital environment, making direct references to it.